If you are a frequent viewer of this channel, you know that I am a fan of all music from the 2000s. There's just something about this era that felt so special. The emo and pop punk scene was the biggest it ever was or will be. The indie rock was actually cool and interesting. The pop artists were still trying. And rap and hip hop was getting more diverse and creative. But even though I am a aficionado of 2000s music, I can't deny the music of my teen years. The 2010s. The 2010s had some great tunes. Just the Way You Are by Bruno Mars. Love It If We Made It by the 1975. Royals by Lorde. And the pop punk and emo and alternative of the 2010s was some of the best in my opinion. You had the rise of sad boy pop punk, the emo revival, and modern heroes of the genre like Modern Baseball, Man Overboard, and Joyce Manor. But we all know these bands. What about the ones no one talks about? Well, guess what? I'm gonna talk about them.
Right now.
Oh, no.
Hello and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, I'm Trevor and I am eternally uncool. I make videos about music, music culture, and anything that interests me. But mostly music right now. So if that sounds like something you'd be into, then I highly recommend subscribing to the channel and watching the rest of this video. When you think of music from the 2010s, who do you think of? 21 Pilots? The 1975? Neck Deep? Maybe think of bands from the 2000s that carried over, like Paramore and Panic at the Disco. These were the bands that had hits, that made an impact. The ones that were really memorable in the long run. But what about the bands that weren't as memorable and made less of an impact? These bands weren't bad or anything. They weren't mediocre or not unique enough. They just kind of got lost in the shuffle of all the other pop punk, emo, and alternative rock bands that were cropping up around this time. On the Eternally Uncool YouTube channel, these bands are never forgotten. What I've done today is compiled a few bands from the 2010s emo, pop punk, indie rock scene that you might have forgotten about. Some of these bands were side projects of other bigger bands around the time. Some were up-and-comers that just didn't come.
Wait.
And some were just criminally underrated for no reason. So with all that being said, grab a drink, grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's get into the video. Code Orange is probably one of the more successful heavy rock bands to come out of the 2010s. They mixed elements of hardcore, metalcore, industrial, and shoegaze to create a sound that attracted listeners from all genres. I got into Code Orange sometime after I graduated high school in 2014. This was around the time they released their second album, I Am King. I actually have that album in my collection, along with a bunch of other Code Orange albums. I think one of the songs from I Am King was included on a CD that came with the magazine Rock Sound. I liked it. I liked the band. I was starting to get into more heavier music around this time. And they were one of the first newer bands that really interested me. They've been pretty successful over the years. Even their most recent album, The Above, has shown that they're still a band that has a lot to offer in terms of experimentation and creativity. Here's all fucked up. But did you know that several members of Code Orange had an indie rock side project? No, you didn't know. That's why you clicked on this video. Adventures was a band formed by Code Orange members Jamie Morgan, Reba Myers, and Joe Goldman, along with Kimmy Hanauer and future Code Orange member Dominic Landolina in 2012. The band's sound differed drastically from Code Orange. Whereas Code Orange could be described as a hardcore band, Adventures was more in line with the grunge revival we saw going on in the 2010s. I discovered Adventures the same way I discovered Code Orange, through a Rock Sound CD. In fact, it might have been the same CD. But I distinctly remember discovering them through the song Heavenly.
Heavenly, be heavenly, have the patience to wait with me.
Adventures only ever released 2 EPs, 2 splits, and 1 album. I don't know if they had any bigger plans or aspirations for the band, but I'm sure if they did, they would have made a pretty big splash in the kind of more emo-centric indie realms. If Code Orange wasn't as successful as they became, maybe Adventures would have been a fruitful project for all involved. But Code Orange became Code Orange, and Adventures just kind of faded from everyone's memory. But if you like soft grunge with a little bit of indie pop mixed in there, then I highly recommend checking out Adventures. By the late 2000s and early 2010s, you had a lot of great female-fronted bands. Pop punk, emo, heavy metal, hard rock, alternative. These genres were no longer the sausage fest that they had been for so many years. A woman fronting a heavy band in the 2010s wasn't unusual. We had Hailstorm and Paramore open up the floodgates for copycats and admirers alike. And there were a lot of great bands from this era that never got the attention that they deserved. But the one I remember most is Marmozets. Marmozets was formed in 2007 in West Yorkshire, England by 2 sets of siblings. Rebecca, Sam, and Josh McIntyre, and Jack and Will Bottomley. They formed the band while they were all still in high school, putting on chaotic and frenetic live shows even back then. The best way to describe Marmozets is that they're like a mix of Paramore, Hailstorm, and Rollo Tomasi. It's very hard rock oriented. But there's some post-hardcore and screamo bits thrown in there for good measure. I originally thought that I had gotten into Marmozets from Rock Sound again. But I was really getting it confused with another magazine that I bought religiously around the same time. They were in the April 2014 issue of 100 Bands You Need to Know from Alternative Press. And there they are. Right there. Marmozets. See? I didn't lie to you. But I do remember one of their songs being included on a Rock Sound CD. And that's how I really got into them. They released their debut album, The Wonderful World of Marmozets, in 2014. And their second album, Knowing What You Know, 4 years later in 2018. But after 2018, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of activity from Marmozets. I guess things kind of slowed down when Rebecca McIntyre was diagnosed with hypermobility and had to go through several surgeries and recoveries. But it wasn't all negative. Rebecca and bandmate Jack Bottomley married in 2022 and welcomed their first child.
So that's pretty nice.
In 2024, Marmozets announced via Instagram that they had signed to the Network Music Group. So hopefully we get more music from Marmozets and possibly a third album. If you enjoy heavy music with elements of emo and some nice vocals, definitely check out Marmozets.
I'll be home before you know it, sleeping on your bedroom floor, and I can't think of anywhere in the world I'd rather be than right here with you.
When I was in high school, I was getting more into emo music, as well as the more serious side of pop punk. Throughout middle school, I was a fan of bands like Blink-182, Simple Plan, and Good Charlotte. You know, good bands, but very, like, commercial-leaning bands. But in high school, I started listening to bands like Man Overboard, The Wonder Years. But there was one pop-punk band that was instrumental in my love of the genre from around this time. Hello? That band is Major League.
So this is what best friends do. They cut the ties and live the life that you want around you.
Major League formed in 2009 in New Jersey. By 2012, they were opening for the Swellers, getting signed to No Sleep Records, and supporting Man Overboard on their East Coast tour. They also did a co-headlining tour with Turnover while they were still a pop-punk band. There was also tours with Census Fail and Mayday Parade, before the band announced their breakup in 2016. I discovered Major League the same way I discovered a lot of pop-punk and emo in middle school and high school, through YouTube. I don't remember exactly how I came across this band. I must have been listening to Man Overboard or The Wonder Years or one of the several other obscure pop-punk bands I was listening to at the time, and I got recommended a song called Need I Remind You. Never one to pass up on a new musical experience, I clicked on the song, and my life was changed forever.
I hope and I pray that you're sorry.
And I hope that you know that I'm sorry.
'Cause I never thought I would be here.
No, I never thought I would be here.
I desperately wanted to be a cool pop-punk kid in high school, even though I looked like this. So I listened to as much pop-punk as possible, and Major League was one of the best that I could find.
I heard you say from a friend of a friend, I guess this is how it goes. That you're better now, moved on, transcend. Thought I should let you know.
Major League was only a band for a handful of years, but I think they definitely left an impact. I really think they paved the way for more successful bands like Real Friends and State Champs. And they also helped foster my love of pop punk, which led to this channel, which led to this video that you are watching and hopefully enjoying right now.
Anything that's bad for me, you're killing me.
There are so many bands out there that get labeled as the next big thing. They burst onto the scene with a lot of promise, a lot of talent. They get a lot of hype from music blogs and critics. They release a strong EP or demo. Then they put out a great debut, thus setting themselves up for even more success. But then they get caught up in the dreaded sophomore slump. Their momentum takes a hit, and they stop getting the same hype that they were getting before. This is what happened to Remo Drive.
I'm so stuck in the habits I formed when I was 15.
Remo Drive was formed in 2013 by brothers Eric and Steven Paulson after they saw kids at their high school wearing Title Fight shirts. They got interested and looked up the band and became fans. The Paulson brothers then decided that they wanted to make music like Title Fight. They met drummer Sam Mathis after Steven saw him play in another band and invited him to jam with the brothers. Mathis would actually give them the name Remo Drive after the brand of drum that he used. And thus, Remo Drive was born. They released their first album, Greatest Hits, to some pretty good reviews. Punk News called it an exhilarating 37 minutes of emo-flavored pop-punk done right. In 2018, though, it was announced that Sam Mathis was no longer a part of the band. Sam said this wasn't his choice, but the Paulson brothers continued on, signing to Epitaph and releasing their second album, Natural Everyday Degradation. This album was seen as a drastic downgrade for the band. One critic said, Natural Everyday Degradation falls flat. Each track borrows things from each other, and not in a way that allows each track to stay as an individual song. I don't think natural everyday degradation is that bad. I think they were just trying to do something different. I don't know. I might have to do a whole video just talking about the album itself, maybe defending it in a video, I don't know. Y'all wanna see that? Remo Drive continues to make music, their most recent album being released in 2024. But their profile just isn't as big as it once was. But I think Remo Drive is a really talented band that just got cursed with hype. If you like pop punk that has an emo revival edge, as well as some pretty decent alternative rock, go check out Remo Drive if you haven't already. Do you remember any of these bands? Are there any forgotten 2010s bands that you want me to talk about? Let me know in the comments. That's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then I highly recommend smashing that like button and sharing this video with everyone you know. I'm a small, independent content creator who pretty much does everything on his own. And I'm really trying to grow my channel, so every like, every comment, every share, any interaction with this video at all really helps me out a lot. I'm also trying to grow my Instagram, so if you want to follow that, there's a link in my channel and it comes up at the end, so. But with all that being said, thank you for watching. As always, I'm Trevor. Stay uncool. And that's the end of the video. Goodbye.